Chang here, and welcome to my channel. This is a skill building video series where we pick a specific skill and we practice it so that the next time we encounter a problem that actually needs that skill, we can solve it with ease. Let's begin. For today's video, we're going to be focusing on system of equations through the cancellation method, or sometimes known as the subtraction method. Now, in order to solve that, there are several steps that we have to focus on. The first one is sort of a if necessary kind of step. Now, you might have to alter one or both or none of the equation so that one of the variable is the same as the other. Now, when I say the same, I don't mean exactly the same, right? They could be the same thing as long as one is positive or one is negative, or they're both positive or both negative. It doesn't matter at this point. All right, so for example, you can have 5y in one of them and 5y in the others, that they're both exactly the same. Or if you have 5y in one of them and negative 5y in the other, that's still fine as well, because that'll lead us to the second step. Now, the second step is up to your discretion. You're either adding or you're subtracting one of the equation from the other. The point of this, once again, is to cancel out that specific variable that we are focusing on. What that means is that, well, if we happen to have 5y and minus 5y, then we can just add them together. Those guys will cancel. If we have 5y and a 5y on the other one as well, then we probably have to subtract it so one of the 5y cancels out. That's the whole point of the second step. Now, the third one is that, well, we have a variable left over. Now we can solve that specific equation with that variable left over, and the rest is ideally numbers. You can solve what that leftover variable is. Now, once you get that, the fourth step, you use that leftover variable, whatever that is, you found a number that it belongs to. Pick one of those two original equations, plug it in, and solve the missing one that you just ended up canceling out. Now, this is a lot of steps. It's kind of difficult, but once you start seeing the pattern, it actually gets a lot easier. So let's practice. Now, for the first problem, we have 7x plus 3y equals negative 19 on top. We have x plus 3y equals negative 13 on the bottom. Once again, we're trying to figure out so that one variable is exactly the same as the other, right? In this case, we have 3y, great. Now, our second step is we want to cancel out that variable. Since this is both a plus 3y or a positive 3y, in order to cancel them out, we actually have to make one of them negative. Let's just go with the bottom. So, once again, our focus is on this guy right here. We want to cancel them out. Now, they're both positive, so we're just going to subtract this whole thing. Let's see, right here, subtract this whole thing. So the negative side is going to be distributed to all of them. So rather than x plus 3y equals negative 13, what you're going to do is actually minus x minus 3y equals, and negative is positive. This one's actually 13 now. Okay, and so we're just going to subtract the whole thing through. And what we have in this case is, well, 7x minus x is going to be 6x. 3y minus 3y, which is what we hope for, 0, right? Nothing. I'm going to just leave it blank so you guys can see it. And we have negative 19 plus 13. In this case, that's what? Negative 6. Okay, now we have 6x equals negative 6. So we can actually solve for x, which is the variable that's not canceled out. So what we're going to do in this case is we're just going to divide by 6 here, divide by 6 here, goes away, x equals negative 1. So we have that first. Now, this is one of our answer. What we're going to do is we're going to pick one of the original, ignoring everything else, ignoring all that red mark and all that stuff. We're going to pick one of the original and we're going to plug in x as negative 1 and figure out what y is. Well, in this case, let's just look at the bottom one. The bottom one seems a lot easier. So x plus 3y equals negative 13. Now, we know x is negative 1. So instead of x, we're just going to put negative 1. And we're going to still have the plus 3y equals negative 13. Okay, well, we're just going to add 1 here, add 1 here. This becomes negative 12. And we have 3y right here. Right? Now we're going to divide by 3. Divide by 3. Y equals negative 4. So this is our final answer for this system of equation. What it means is that basically for x equals -1 and y equals -4, it will work for both of them. If you plug in x and y, this statement is true. If you plug in x and y, this statement is true as well. So for this next problem, we have 3x plus 5y equals 7. And we have x minus y equals 5. Now this one is slightly different in that, notice this, the x or the y is not the same in both equations, not even remotely close. But what we can do is try to change it, alter it so that it actually is similar. Well, I see this is a negative sign. I actually kind of want that. So if my goal is to cancel out the y, the best thing to do is try to get this as a -5y or -5y. Well, if I want this one to have 5, we have to make it for all of them, right? So we have to multiply all of them. What we're going to do is we're going to multiply everything by 5. So here we have 5 times this whole thing. What that means is that instead of x, now it's just going to be 5x. Instead of minus y, now it's going to be minus 5y equals, and then instead of 5, well, 5 times 5 is 25. So ignoring this right now, we're working with these two equations. Now we're just going to add them because remember, my goal right now is to cancel out the y, and that will cancel out. Right? So we're just adding these guys right here. So 3x plus 5x is 8x. These guys cancel out. That was our goal. Great. Then we have 7 plus 25. What is that? 32. So we have 8x equals 32. Well, let's just solve for x. Divide by 8 on both sides. 32 divided by 8. X equals 4. That's one of our answer. Now, remember, after we get that, we can ignore everything else. We're just looking at the original equations again. And we can plug in whichever one we want and solve for y. Well, I'm going to choose the second one because that's just a lot easier to work with. It's just basically x minus y equals 5. And we know that x is 4 in this case, so we can just plug that in. So rather than x, we're just going to put 4 right here, and then the rest is still the same, right? It's still minus y equals 5. And we're just going to try to solve for y. Well, subtract 4, what do we get? Negative y equals 5 minus 4, that's 1. And since it's a negative, we want it positive, we're going to multiply both sides by -1. And that changes the sign, so we have y equals -1. And so our answer for this problem is x equals 4 and y equals -1. So for the remainder of this video, I'm going to go over this without much of an explanation. Hopefully you guys can follow along. So for watching this video on systems of equation through the cancellation method. See you in the next one.